The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning. We're going to be joined a little later by Cameron Agee, the Executive Director of the Salvation Army Northern Center of Hope. We're going to be talking about all their fundraising. It's all starting. They got a ton going on, and a bit about how that helps the community. But first, we're joined by Dan Davies, the member of the Legislative Assembly for Peace River North. Nice to meet you, Dan.
Hey, good morning, Dub.
Thanks so much for coming to talk to us during your week away from the legislature. But as we were saying before we got on, still working.
Oh, yeah.
Still
working in my office here, yeah.
So I thought we'd kind of make this a regular thing, and we'd talk about a few different things going on. Why don't we start kind of with what are you generally working on in the legislature right now, Dan?
Well, there's of course there's a lot of stuff going on. We've got lots of talk around the ALR, Agricultural Land Reserve, Agricultural Land Commission. ICBC has certainly been a topic of discussion lately. Working locally, Taylor Bridge. We've got some movement on the Taylor Bridge now. We've got some public engagement that's going to be happening. The caribou issue is still a big issue for us in the North Piece, the South Piece, and province-wide. We've got labor unrest, which is, on a quote-unquote labor-friendly government. We've got huge labor unrest. We got 8,000 students out in Saanich. We've got the BCTF without a contract, UNBC, transit workers. So, that's certainly something that's big in the province. Housing issues are still an issue. We've got opioid crisis, which is still an issue. Healthcare is still an issue. The list goes on and on and on. So lots of stuff that we're working on, lots of stuff that we're advocating for to try and move forward. And at the end of the day is to make sure that we have a strong voice that represents the North Piece. Often, we do get drowned out by Lower Mainland concerns. So it's to make sure that our concerns are also being heard as well. Now,
it's interesting you ended with that, because speaking of being drowned out by Lower Mainland concerns, the caribou issue, this just keeps coming up again. The PRD has been basically disallowed from having a seat at the table. You weren't invited. Our MP wasn't invited to talk about it. What do you think is going on here that they don't? It seems like the provincial government doesn't want us to have much of a say on the things that are going to affect really everything around here, especially when it comes to caribou herds.
Yeah, so that has been one of our biggest concerns is, the absolute, I'd say, lack of, but there's been zero engagement with the community, zero engagement with the elected officials, myself, Bob Zimmer, the municipalities that it's going to impact, the regional district. It is good to see. I do understand that the regional district recently has been invited now to the table.
Okay, that's good.
So there is going to be some voice. But at the end of the day, certainly myself and Bob should be at the table. As we, and Mike Bernier, of course, in South Piece, should be at the table as we represent all of the people that live in the riding. So to get an understanding of what's going to be happening, how that's going to impact forest industry, having a voice at the table, bringing concerns forward about the energy sector in general. And I think the government's dropped the ball. They know they dropped the ball, or you wouldn't have seen the premier fly up here in a mad rush to say sorry, we missed out.
Yeah.
But even though they appointed Blair Lekstrom as their person, to sort this out, Blair made a whole bunch of recommendations. They're not following through with any of them. So it's been a bunch of lip service to hopefully, to push the issue down the road and, hopefully to have the public calm down about it. But it's far from being over, and they're still far from consulting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a study came out recently that said the wolf call was actually helping, for example.
And we knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talk to anybody that, lives up here, everyone's been saying that there needs to be a continued wolf call. And you add to that, we need to be looking at the grizzlies. Grizzlies have a huge impact on the ungulate populations. And, it's, like I say, predator management, I guess we could probably summarize it, needs to be looked at more in depth.
Okay. Is there something, if you were invited to the table, you'd kind of open with, like you had said, we want more consultation, right? And that's a conversation. Is there something you'd start with saying, hey, this is something you guys really got to look at that you're not at the moment?
Well, I think the predator management would be probably the key one. Looking at making sure the energy sector and the resource sector has a valid say in it as well. But there's so many people that use the backcountry. We've got recreation users, of course, the snowmobilers, the hunters. We got guide outfitters, the resource sector. I mean, those are all people that have a valid say on what happens to the land and how it's managed. And by ignoring them, as a government that is, let's say for the people, they've completely missed the boat, and they got to make sure that they are meaningfully engaging the public and listening to what they're saying. And again, that's what we're advocating for.
Okay. Now, I wanted to switch gears here. You've also mentioned this already. The ALR has been in the news a lot. They passed Bill 52 last year, which would put, among other things, limits on a number of, I guess, dwellings that can be on farmland, making sure there's not mega mansions built or whatever. And now there's Bill 15, which I don't think is passed, but is being discussed.
It's passed.
It has passed.
It's passed.
How's that having an impact on farmers in the Peace? Have you heard from your constituents?
I have heard from many farmers. We've got one farmer that's just out toward Montney that they're an older couple. They've got a large farm, and they want their son to take it over, and they want to allow him to build a house on a piece of and I've gone out there and seen the area where they want the house. It's not farmable. It's kind of on a hillside full of trees and rocks, and they were denied to do that. And we're hearing those stories, other ones around the Peace Country and across the province where, farmers retire and they need to have a succession plan, and they shouldn't have their son and daughter and families living in their basement of their house. They should be allowed to plan accordingly and to have that succession plan to move forward. And right now it is not being allowed. And there's lots of examples just around the housing issue. There's lots of examples where you've got some farms in the Lower Mainland that are growing crops, making soups as a small business and selling them. Well, that's not allowed because it doesn't fit within the category. You've got women's shelters. Most recently there was one on the island, a women's shelter. Teaches them how to use the land and farm. They make goods and such. Well, that doesn't fit within the category, so they've been evicted. So it's just like we're not sure what the Agricultural Land Commission is doing. They have been given a new mandate by the NDP government, and obviously it's not working. So lots of issues. They have made some changes because the farmers have been rallying quite a bit. We had Ag Days in the legislature just back last month. And we had about 200 farmers on the front steps of the legislature from across the province saying, this is BS. Like you are, there's no farming without the farmer. And right now you are limiting how the farmers can continue to stay and work their land. And those are big issues.
And what do you think the government should do to maybe fix things? Is this a lack of consultation problem again? Or?
Well, I think it's a lack of consultation, definitely, but it's connected. They got rid of the local representation on the commission. You've got all these decisions that are coming out of the Lower Mainland.
Yeah.
It's that divide. The province is made up of more than the Lower Mainland, and again, these issues are down there as well. So don't get me wrong on that. But there needs to be. What's the line? Common sense prevails, and I think that whole common sense piece is missing right now. Why would we be kicking a woman's shelter off of a piece of ALC land that is farming, but they're also running a business to support this? Like, how does that even make sense to do that? I don't know. So we need to somehow get that decision making back in check to that it makes sense for the people.
Absolutely. All right, switching gears again, talking a bit about the local industry. We keep kind of hearing conversations I have with people around town, with people here. We're waiting for something to happen, right? Because LNG's coming. We're like, okay, the economy's going to get going and whatnot. I mean, we had Art Jarvis on last week, and he talked a bit about it from kind of the ICBA standpoint. Are you concerned? Do you see this as something we're all just kind of waiting for? Are things kind of ramping up around here?
You know, there's a lot of question marks around that. Of course, we just had a federal government, federal election that I think adds some complexity to it. I mean, we're at a liberal minority, which I don't think is good for the country. And you look, we got the double whammy here in BC, and as we're under an NDP minority government being propped up by the Green Party. So when we look at the energy sector, and LNG is coming, and you know, I've been out to Kitimat and looked at the facilities. You know, the pipeline's being built. There are hurdles. I mean, in this day and age, you don't just throw a pipeline down anymore or build a facility.
Nope.
I mean, you know, there's lots of steps, lots of consultation, lots of things that have to be done in step. But when we look at how this industry is going to grow in BC, that's where I worry now. We just talked about Caribou. You know, that's a massive impact on the land. You know, we have so many different things. You know, I forgot the name of the resource plan. Totally left me now that I need to say it. But there's multiple things that are impacting the land base. That right now creates a huge uncertainty, whether it be oil and gas sector, the forest sector, which is hurting right now, mining sector, and all of these companies are looking at where can we best invest capital dollars that's going to give us return. And there's nothing wrong with that, because they invest a lot into the BC economy, which of course pays for the healthcare, pays for the education, and when you start turning that away. And this is what I've never understood about our present government that we have, you know, who wants to really focus a lot on those social side, you know, the healthcare, education, and housing and such. You can't cut off the resource sector and expect taxpayers to pick up all that. It just doesn't work. And we're seeing companies in all across the energy sector right now looking everywhere but British Columbia to invest their capital dollars, whether it be Alberta or south of the border. And we need to get competitive again. We've lost our competitiveness. And again, that competitiveness goes around uncertainty. You know, like, people are not going to invest in a jurisdiction right now where, you know, the rule today might be different next Friday. And I don't blame them. If you're a business person at the same thing, you'd be in the same boat. So we have a long ways to go to get back to a competitive angle. There's lots of things that we can do around that, which, you know, I'd be on your show for an hour to probably to go through those. But the government needs to get serious about looking at how we can build a robust resource sector if we are going to continue to fund all these other services that every single one of us want and rely on. So a lot of work ahead of the government, but right now I'd give them an F. On working in the resource and energy sector.
Failing grade. All
Failing
right.
grade.
All right. So switching gears one more time. The ICBC rate changes that we've heard stories. Kids now, their insurance bills are somewhere north of $5,000 for the year. I mean, what do you think has happened with that? Is that once again just that we're thinking about people who can take buses in downtown Vancouver?
Well, you know, it's you know, and it's not just the kids it's impacting. It's parents too, right? You know, as a young person gets an L or an N, they're driving mom and dad's car. You know, I've talked to people, their bills have gone up, you know, $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 a year just to add that extra driver. You know, at the end of the day, we need to get back to the values of a free market, and we need to look at giving options for people to get insurance, and that's where we need to be going, and that's what we're going to be driving with our party, is to get that. I think the you know, the blame game, which, you know, they love to do, government loves to do the blame game. But they've been 2.5 years in government. Now it's a worse mess than it's ever been. We just need to get away from public insurance and give people an option. And you know, and again, it needs to be done right. You know, we need to make sure that we're not just, all right, we're just going to go with this, but we need to make a plan moving forward, and that plan, in my opinion, is giving people choice.
Okay. Now, I don't know offhand about other provinces, but I'm from Alberta, so will you and the party be looking towards Alberta sort of as a guidepost or how these changes can be made?
Actually, if we're one of I think we're one of the only jurisdictions right now with a public insurance. There's a couple blends out there, and then there's most of Canada is purely a private insurance free market. So, what that looks like down the road, I don't know, but right now we certainly don't have any choice. You have ICBC or ICBC right now to get your insurance, and like I say, that's not good enough, and it's not affordable right now if you talk to families that are trying to insure their vehicles.
Okay. Now, would you support changes if they, in the interim, before, say, you guys get into government or they decide, okay, we're going to blow up ICBC, changes that would help people like who are in the Peace, for example, we have buses in Fort St. John, and that's great, but they are limited. They're limited where they go and the times of day they run. People need cars in the Peace. It's like we have to pay these enormous insurance bills, whereas perhaps in Vancouver, well, you could park your car and get away with getting around without it, right? Would you support the government, say, somehow making a change so that, I don't know, they make it easier for people in places like the Peace?
And, there's lots of things that we can look at that. And, unfortunately, governments, all governments tend to do it. The cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
Well, this is good for everyone. Well, you know what? It's not good for everyone. One of our beefs is around the carbon tax. I think there should be exceptions. We heat our homes up here not because we, want to. We have to. And, those are things that we need to be looking at seriously. How can we look at these areas around fairness? Because what we have up here is very, very different than what they have in the Lower Mainland or in Victoria, and transit's one of those. So having a different system, like you say, we had a two-level system in the ALR at one time. You had a northern zone and you had the south zone, and that was looking at we can only farm up here for a little while of the year. They can farm almost year round. Getting 3 hay crops, as a good example, or 4 on a good year. We get 1.
Yeah.
So there needs to be these differences, and things need to be looked at differently for different areas. So back to your question, I wouldn't certainly wouldn't rule anything out that looks at having different zones.
Absolutely. All right, Dan, we're going to have to leave it there for today. But hey, thank you so much for stopping by to talk to us.
Appreciate it. And I guess I can say this, have a Merry Christmas.
Hey, thanks so much, Dan. All right, we're going to have Cameron Nagy on in just a few minutes on Moose Talks.
Fall. It's that time of year where we crave our favorite comfort foods. If you're like me and crave the crispy, breaded goodness of KFC, you're in luck. Right now, score a deal on one of KFC's new delicious buckets. Get 8 pieces of original hand-breaded chicken, 7-layer barbecue tenders, plus medium fries and a medium side. All for just $32.99. But hurry, this mouthwatering deal is only available for a limited time. Stop in and pick up your bucket today. Only at KFC on 100th Street in Fort St. John.
The flavor of Italian sausage. The power of plant protein. Panago's new Beyond Meat pizzas are here. Try the tangy Beyond Summer Barbecue with roasted corn medley. Or dial up the heat with the Beyond Spicy Calabrese. Try it with classic mozzarella or our dairy-free version. Order yours at Panago.com or download the Panago app. On now.
Serving resource-rich Northeast BC and Alberta since 2003, Flow-Rite Environmental Systems has a strong reputation for safe, quality service. Specializing in well abandonment and bleed downs, Flow-Rite was the first to launch truck-mounted pressure vessels in BC. They offer gas well flaring, surface equipment rentals, service rig support, and more. Need your next job to flow smoothly? Call Flow-Rite at 250-785-3569. That's Flow-Rite Environmental Systems, 250-785-3569. When you live in northern BC, cold and snowy winters are simply a part of life. So this winter, make sure you're well prepared with a trip to Home Hardware Building Center. Right now, Home Hardware is fully stocked with everything winter. Stop in today and pick up heaters, salt, lava grip, snow brushes, shovels, and more. If it will help you to stay safe and warm this winter, Home Hardware's got it. For everything you need to tackle our Fort St. John winters, head to Home Hardware Building Center. Here's how.
Do you spend hours managing the complicated aspects of booking crew accommodations? Are you a road warrior driving to your work site and need a place to stay nearby? Visit LodgeLink.com and let LodgeLink transform your workforce travel management experience. With LodgeLink, we take the hassle out of finding, booking, and managing your crew accommodations. Built around the specific need of crew travel, LodgeLink provides convenient online access to hundreds of properties from any device and saves you time and money. We provide our customers a better and more personalized booking and crew management experience. Visit LodgeLink.com to get where you need to be.
During the holiday season, it's not unusual for family and friends to pop by for a festive visit. And when they do, be prepared with M&M Food Market. Stop by and pick up quick and easy appetizers like mozzarella sticks, meatballs, and party packs. Sweet treats like cakes, Yule logs, and squares. Even a selection of gluten-free products from stuffed potatoes to dessert bars. And every single dish is prepared with care. Do you want to be part of making real food for real life in Fort St. John? Then M&M Food Market has a franchise opportunity for you. M&M Food Market, making real food for real life. Visit mmfoodmarket.com.
Hi, this is Jen with Oscars, reminding you, in addition to being your first choice for disposal and recycle bins at your office, shop, or residence, we also offer portable toilets, combo trailers, light towers, and all sizes of larger roll-off bins for your pipeline, facility, or construction project. Core certified, locally owned, and always going the extra mile to make sure you get the great service you deserve. Call us today, 250-785-8158, serving Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, and surrounding areas.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back to Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. Our thanks again to Dan Davies for stopping by, of course, the MLA for Peace River North. Now I'm joined by Cameron Eggy, the Executive Director of the Salvation Army Northern Center of Hope. Good morning, Cam. Yes, Cam.
No, you can call me Cam. That's fine. Thanks for having me on the show this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Well, it's I know you guys do fundraising and stuff all year, but Christmas is kind of your wheelhouse when you really got, it seems like, everything going on right now. Why don't you tell us a bit about some of the fundraising you're doing over the holiday season?
Right. Yeah, so throughout the year we do fundraising, but nothing really big. Christmas is really the Salvation Army's time to come out, get on the streets, and we have our iconic Christmas kettle season. It's been over 100 years, and this is a time when we actually fill a storehouse, so to speak, for the food bank and community and family services in Fort St. John. Mm-hmm. So we also operate the Northern Center of Hope shelter, and so these programs require the support of the community to stay open. And so Christmas, November and December is a big push for us. Countless events around the community. Of course, the Christmas kettles being the biggest one. It is an excellent opportunity to get our face into the community, have volunteers. There's about 900 volunteer shifts. And so that's every day starting, minus Sundays. We don't do the fundraising on Sundays, but starting on Monday, November 18th, right up until Christmas Eve, we'll have our kettles at different locations around the city. This year, a new one this year is Canadian Tire and Gallagher's Winter Wonderland just north of the city. Last year we had a kettle there. The family ran it and it did really well. This year we have some great signage that'll be lit. And so those kettles will be, Monday at the Gallagher's also.
All right. So you mentioned, you're taking monetary donations, which is what the kettle is. And then you said, of course, the food bank. I think we're doing one in Home Hardware, if I remember, for toys and whatnot, and that sort of thing. How does this... I guess first off, is there a number of what you're kind of hoping to raise over the Christmas season?
Right. So the kettles, the goal for the kettles is $75,000. Yeah. And general Christmas giving, we're looking at about 100. So we're expecting about $175,000 in November and December, which will sustain the food bank. So the food bank and community and family services is not a government-funded program. Yeah. It is grassroots from the community. Our thrift store, the surplus from that keeps the lights on, keeps kind of the building operating. But as far as program dollars, those are all raised through our community donations. And yeah, you mentioned toy drives. So the material side of what we need to raise, you guys are doing one at Home Hardware on December 13th and 14th. Which is amazing. Century 21 is doing a toy drive. RBC is doing a toy drive, and also Toys for Tickets is a City of Fort St. John initiative where between now and Christmas you can actually go in with your parking ticket and give the value of a toy. It sounds like a lot, but there's hundreds of families and hundreds of children that get these toy donations. Last year we had some surplus and were able to start a birthday program. So now any family attached to the food bank, the month that their child has a birthday, they're able to take a gift home. And actually last week we were able to walk into a preschool and actually give them a bundle of educational toys that they had been requesting from the community. So there's a lot of avenues that these go, and it's pretty exciting when the community comes together for that.
How much, when you talk about the money you're raising just at Christmas time, what percentage of that for the year is that of all the fundraising you would do? Like, it's an enormous chunk, I assume.
Yeah, it's an enormous chunk. I mean, the budget to run even just family services is about $300,000 for the year. So it's
Okay.
just over half of our operational funding for that program we can get out of the Christmas season.
Wow, okay.
So it's substantial. And the other part mainly comes through the thrift store revenue. So if it wasn't for the store, we wouldn't have enough to keep the food bank open throughout the year. We have about 500 families on average using the food bank, and these are families that are not attached to the emergency shelter because of the 80 beds at the emergency shelter, those folks have all their meals provided for. So the food bank is sustaining the folks in the community who may be employed but may be underemployed or
Yeah.
maybe just not enough to make it through. So it's a vital program.
Are people in the shelter? I don't know much about the shelter. I'll admit. Are they people who don't have homes or are kind of in between, like transitioning?
Right.
Transitioning. Or?
So the building is unique in that there is 24 year-round emergency shelter beds. These may be for absolute homeless folks or people new to the community. And then we have 36 transitional housing units for men and women.
I see.
To maybe move through the shelter, or maybe they came to our doors and they you know, maybe there was a family breakdown and they find themselves homeless for the first time. Often more females than men in that situation, but then we have transitional housing. They can live for 2 to 4 years in that program while they're saving money. They're developing some life skills. What we've seen mostly is, you know, you may have a female who's been in a relationship for a long time, raised children. Maybe there's a breakdown in that home and they find themselves in a position of not actually having relative recent skills, and so it's a good opportunity for them to do that. We also have a family room where if there was a situation in the middle of the night with a mother and her kids, that they can come in the emergency shelter for the night.
Okay.
So it's a unique program, men and women, and a lot of those folks who live there volunteer. A lot of them give back to the community, and you know, our perishable food recovery program is mostly manned by volunteers who live in the program, and so we pick up anywhere from 8 to 1,300 pounds of food every day of the week for the food bank in the van that you see going around town.
Wow,
So it's
no
pretty.
kidding.
It's an intricate program.
Okay. Now, you mentioned volunteers. You're going to need volunteers to man kettles, you know, help out with the food bank, that sort of thing. I guess going back to the shelter for a second anyway. You've got staff there, I assume, that so that some of the fundraising helps, you know, keep them paid and keep the building running and the lights on, kind of as you talked about, right?
In the province of British Columbia, a large percentage of shelter operations are funded through the provincial government
Okay.
through BC Housing, because there are skilled staff that you must have with
Oh,
certain
okay.
credentials. And so that is an expensive program. And so the part that we fundraise in the community is the above and beyond, the extras, whether it's rec program or swimming passes.
I see,
But
okay.
that building, the Northern Center of Hope, is primarily funded through our partnership with Northern Health and BC Housing.
Okay.
What's not funded is the Community and Family Services on 100th Avenue with the food bank. That is completely Fort St. John that sustains that program.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so my next question was going to be then, what are your volunteer needs for this time? Do you already have people lined up? Or are you still in need of lots of people?
We're still in need of quite a few people. We have a lot of organizations and companies who have come on board and who have adopted kettle shifts for the season.
Yeah.
We have Christmas Central opening at the mall this year, which will be our hub where people can drop off their donations. They can come and sign up to volunteer. Our admin coordinator will be making that her office through the season. And so it's going to be an exciting hub of activity where we'll build our hampers there. Last year we did just over 200 hampers. We're expecting to have around the same. Folks are dropping off applications. So volunteering can be as little as an hour on a kettle shift, or it could be 2 to 4 hours in the thrift store, in the food bank, in the emergency shelter for the right fit. There are countless opportunities. We had a young man who was only available in the middle of the night because of his work schedule, and so he was volunteering from midnight till 5 a.m. doing admin at the emergency shelter because the doors never close. No day of the week that
No kidding.
that there's not an opportunity to volunteer. A couple exciting events that are happening, and next weekend there's the Canadian Brew House. They've opened the evening to a fundraiser for the Salvation Army. It's actually being hosted by RBC mortgage specialist Catherine Dragovich and Remax. And so that they came to us and said, hey, listen, we have an idea. We'd like to do this in support of the kettles kicking off. So we love it when community gets behind what we're doing and actually phones and says, hey, we got an idea of how we'd like to support you. It's pretty great to feel that support in Fort St. John. And because, you know, our heads are in the books most days and you're doing your job. And when you get the call, even like the Moose phoned and said, hey, listen, we're going to do this thing at Home Harder, right? all the logistics are taken care of. We bring a vehicle and they fill it with toys. Like that kind of thing is really helpful for an organization in Fort St. John.
Wonderful. Well, if you want to volunteer, or maybe you're an organization saying, hey, we'd like to help out somehow, is there a place, what's the best way to kind of get a hold of you or go online to sign up?
Just Salvation Army Facebook, you'll get all the links there.
Okay.
You can call 261-1933. You'll get the volunteer coordinator, admin coordinator. People just walk right in. The mall will be open starting Monday, generally 10 to 2 each day of the week, so folks can walk right in, sign up to volunteer, donate. We had organizations phoning yesterday wanting to sponsor families for the hamper program, so that's also a way that companies or individuals can get involved. You take on a family, we give you a list of what goes into a hamper, and they drop it off at the mall. So there's a lot of ways, pretty easy. Facebook's probably the easiest way to find out what we're doing, staying up to date with different events around the city.
Okay, and if someone happens to be listening and they're like, I need a leg up this year. I might need a food hamper to kind of get through the holiday season and be able to put something on for the kids or whatnot. What can they do to get hold of you? So
come right down to the food bank. The applications are open until November 29th.
Okay.
We need that time at the beginning of December to purchase. We raise money through the kettles to also buy a lot of the contents of the hamper. We have some wonderful sponsors this year that are sponsoring a big portion of that cost. We budget about $10,000 to $15,000 of money that we need to spend to fulfill these hampers. Come on down between now and November 29th, fill out an application. Generally speaking, if you're the CRA calls poverty under $42,000 a year, so if that's your income marker, then you're more than welcome to apply, and you qualify for a Christmas hamper from the Salvation Army.
And just out of curiosity, do you always get like more applications than you can fill, or is it kind of like a...
We've committed to fill every application that we
Okay.
get. And so last year we set a target of around 200, and I think by the time the dust settled, there was about 217.
Okay.
But we do work with the other organizations in town, Women's Resource and Phoenix Volunteers Club, who are also doing Christmas hampers to ensure that everyone gets one. So we share lists to ensure that all the needs are met before there are duplicates or before we can go above and beyond. So it's a good way that the organizations around town are ensuring that everyone has something for Christmas.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, we're going to have to leave it there for now, Cameron.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for coming by to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. All right, we'll be right back on Moose Talks to wrap things up. Are you looking for a new opportunity, for a place to build a rewarding career, for a company that has as much interest in your growth and advancement as you do? Why not check out Keytech Group? Keytech is holding a job fair at the Best Western in Fort St. John this weekend. From noon till 6 p.m., they're looking for service hands, pump techs, and more. Drop in and talk with current employees about the opportunities and what it's like to work at Keytech. Maybe you'd like to join them. Check them out at the Best Western this Saturday and Sunday from noon until 6 p.m. Learn more about them at keytech.ca.
Winter's coming. Ernie Sports Experts has what you need with the brands you love and a free gift card. That's right. When you spend $250 or more on regular priced outerwear, get a free $50 gift card. Spend $500, get a free $100 gift card. Columbia, North Face, Burton, Arc'teryx, Helly Hansen, Orage, DC, Patagonia, Roxy. Get ready for winter and get a free gift card only at Ernie's.
Ernie's Sports Experts. Ernie's.
If you're looking for hassle-free internet services, call the Peace Region Internet Society today. With coverage throughout most of the Peace, PRIS can get you connected quickly without the hassle of contracts or bundles. Visit PRIS.ca or call 1-800-768-3311 for more information.
Ryerson Contracting, proud to be a sponsor of local sports. Ryerson Contracting, specialists in pipeline and facility construction, turnaround, and maintenance. Let Ryerson Contracting's combination of quality personnel and equipment complete your next job with safety and integrity. Call 785-0515.
For all your gravel hauling, contaminated waste, low beds, and graders, Rogers Trucking can meet your needs. Call them today at 250-785-3647.
This Sports Booster is brought to you by First Choice Towing. For all your towing needs, lockouts, boosters, tows, they do it all 24/7. Call 250-785-2271. You can count on First Choice Towing for all your towing needs.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Thank you so much for joining us, and our thanks again to Cameron Agee, the Executive Director of the Salvation Army Northern Center Hope, for stopping by. And earlier in the show, we talked to Dan Davies, the MLA for Peace River North. Our thanks again to him for stopping by. That's it for another edition of Moose Talks. Big thanks to Serena Deschner, the studio producer, and Tracy Teeves, who helps produce the show. Make sure you check us out every Friday at 10 o'clock right here on Moose FM on the Facebook page, on the energeticcity.ca Facebook page. You can also watch this episode again online over at energeticcity.ca after it has aired, so check that out as well. That's it for us, though. I'm Dub Craig. Keep being awesome.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.